So we've learned a little bit more about file systems. Most of us should be familiar with them at some capacity, right? Because we've interacted with computers at some point. Of course, those were GUI systems. Now we need to learn how to actually run commands to navigate through these folders. We're not going to be clicking on icons or buttons or tabs or menus. We're going to type in commands to move around the folders. So one of the most important commands is the print working directory. You need to know where you're at, and that's the pwd command. So it's going to show you where you're currently at. It'll give you the full absolute path. So if I run pwd and I was in the documents folder, for example, for a user, it'd print out home, user, documents, right? All the folders going down to the root. So very simple command, but extremely useful. It just kind of gives you some bearings, right, of where you're at. Of course, if you were in a GUI-based system, it'd be really easy to see. But sometimes you got to do a sanity check, right, and run pwd to see where you're at. So little video there on pwd commands, like less than a minute, these command videos. But just nice to watch, just to get some more information. The cd command. So if you actually want to change folders, right, usually you would click on a folder. Well, if we're doing CLI, you're going to run a command called the cd command. CD stands for change directory. So all it's going to do is move you between folders. So you can type in the name of the folder, right? You can type in a longer path. You can use a relative path, right? So if you're inside the user folder, you don't have to type in home/user/documents. You can just type in documents. So again, this is where relative paths start to come in. They save you time if you're familiar with them. These dots and these double dots, we're going to talk about those in a sec. Remember, the tilde represents the home directory. So if I was Bob, right, it'd be /home/Bob/documents. Instead of typing in this, I could just type in the tilde to point to my home directory. And then this one, right, let's say I'm in the home directory and I want to open up the user folder. Maybe I run pwd to double check I was in home. And then I run cd user, boom, it works. If I try to run cd user inside documents, that could fail, right, if there's no user folder there. So you'd get like an error message letting you know, hey, there's no directory like that exists. So when you're doing relative paths, make sure you know where you're at. It's easy to make mistakes. Another very short video, less than a minute on the cd command. And then more on relative paths, right? So I mentioned the dot and the double dot. So when you're writing these like long paths, there are some shortcuts. We've already talked about relative paths. You can ignore, right, the rest of the path as long as you do it in reference to where you're currently at. Sometimes though, you want to actually explicitly tell it, hey, I want you to start the current directory and then do this. So that's the dot. The dot is representing the current directory. So if you do dot/documents, it's going to say, hey, check in the current directory for a documents folder. So that could be the user folder, right, that the dot is representing. If you want to move up a directory, you use the double dot. This is a very common command, the cd double dot. As you're moving, up and down directories, maybe you want to move back up, kind of like if you hit back or like undo. If you want to go back up, you could do cd double dot, and that's going to move you up one level. So the parent directory refers to the folder that's directly above the one you're at. So you can use these on other navigation commands, not the pwd, right? Because that one's super simple. It just does one thing. But on the ls command, you could potentially use the dots here. So let's see. So ls command stands for the list or listing the directory content. So it's not a clean acronym like the other ones, right? But ls is short for list. So it's going to list all the files and folders in your current directory. So you can run ls and it'll do it for the current directory. If you want to be more specific and point it in some other direction, you can type in the directory name. So you could do ls documents, for example. You give the full path. This is a relative path. You could check, what's in the parent directory. Run the ls dot dot. This is equivalent, right? ls documents and dot/documents. They do the same thing. And then we have ls with the home directory, right? So this is pointing to this chunk right here. And then we have this one, which is going to go upper directory and check its user folder. So this could be like if you're in the user folder now and you want to check what's inside the home folder. Or sorry, mix that up. If you want to check what's in the user folder from the user folder, kind of a dumb command. I'll probably get rid of that one. We're just going to say ls user. Yeah. The double dot, use it a lot more with the change directory. All right, so let's see. That's the ls command, another short video. Of course, best way to learn these commands, right, is to actually use them. So I'm going to do a little demo of me using them so that when you get to your assignments, right, you don't feel completely lost. So I'm going to show you how to change directories, print the working directory, list the contents of a directory, how to use the absolute and relative paths, and some examples using the dot and double dot symbols.